From GAN Studios in Philadelphia, it's Game All Night, starring Chris Whitpan. This week, Chris and Dan welcome special guest, Roy Cannaday.
Well, hello everyone, and welcome to Season 3 of Game All Night. So, if you can't tell, we kind of did some different stuff this year. We got rid of the desk. I kind of felt like I don't need the barrier between me and you. And I thought that was very, very important. So, let's see how this little chit-chat goes. But meanwhile, we still have drinks, and we still have a bartender. So, Dan, what are we drinking tonight?
Oh, yeah. We're always bringing the beers, and wanted to kick season 3 off right. So we have one from Vermont's famous The Alchemist.
Whoa!
The sister here of their famous Heady Topper. This is Focal Banger.
Oh.
Now we are defying their earnest instructions to drink it directly from the can because I have poured this. We're splitting this one, so I poured this into a couple of goblets, but.
Awesome.
But I'm assuming you've made the road trip up there, so you've experienced this right at the brewery?
No, because you cannot actually go in the Alchemist Brewery. They only sell to local establishments, very local establishments. And if people buy it, they have to basically drive up, buy it from them, and bring it down. So while I've been many times up there, never been inside their brewery.
Okay.
I think they were working on remedying that the last time I was up there, which was about 2 years ago, though.
Gotcha.
But interesting.
And this one's always one of my favorites. About 7% it's coming in at. Little like you taste the hops a little more directly than you do in Heady Topper. It kind of highlights that mosaic, that Citra, but.
It's definitely tasty. Well, anyway, Dan, I thought it would be very cool if we brought back the original first guest, the first person who said yes, sight unseen, and that is Mr. Roy Cannaday. Welcome back, sir.
How's it going?
Oh, it's going
so
awesome.
Stoked to be back.
It's good to have you. I mean, it's been almost 3 years now. We're going on our last season. Lots changed here, lots changed there. My goodness. So
for sure.
Yeah. So I thought it'd be
in North Carolina. Now I'm down in Homestead, south of Miami. Pretty crazy.
Yep. So I thought it'd be a lot of fun to kind of revisit, our time with Roy, because so much has changed even in the last couple of years. It's like, so what's going on? What's new? So how you been, man? How are things?
Oh, things are super awesome. So I think last time I was on, I was a contributor to the Dice Tower. Now working at the Dice Tower is my full-time job. So that's super awesome. I don't know if you've heard of this guy, Tom Vassell, Dice Tower, whatever it's called. Anyway, I edit all the dudes' reviews. But it's really fun. I help run all their live stuff, and it's just been a blast, like working full-time in board game media now.
It's kind of crazy, right? Like, it's not something we would have thought would have happened, those few years ago.
Oh, for sure. And I mean, I saw an opportunity to come down to Homestead and be part of the team. And I definitely jumped at it. I'm like, that sounds awesome. I made an interview video and sent it to Tom and was like, oh my goodness, I want to be part. And now I've been here for an entire year. So it's been really cool being able to go to conventions, work at the Dice Tower booth, which I did before as a contributor. But now I get to edit all the videos and do all that stuff. And it's a lot of fun working and just seeing all these crazy games come in all the time,
Right. Now, we were trying to record last week with Roy, but you were kind of out of town. So what was that all about?
Well, I went on the Dice Tower cruise, so the Wi-Fi wasn't quite good enough from the ship to be able to pull that off. But yeah, we have a cruise once a year, normally at the beginning of the year in January or February. Next year it's going to be in February. But basically, we have a board game library. It's like this giant curated library of games. We load that up, put it on a ship, invite a whole bunch of people to come. I mean, of course, they join us. It's basically like a floating Dice Tower convention, and people can play games from the library, go to the buffet. It's crazy because it's like a board game convention and all you can eat buffet at the same time. And we also stop off at different places. Like we stopped off at Cozumel and different stuff like that. And you get to go out and do excursions. I went and swam with stingrays and crazy stuff like that. But it's just awesome to like mix this whole like thing of going on a cruise ship and just lounging around, but then also playing board games with all sorts of other amazing board gamers. And we have a lot of Dice Tower shows, and I'm of course in charge of running the PowerPoint, making sure those shows go good. But it's fun to have like entertaining guests and the Dice Tower crew come together and have cool game shows and board game related shows on the cruise ship as well.
Now, see, I didn't buy into the whole idea of board games on a cruise ship. But then the more I thought about it, like, what's the worst part of the cruise? And that's the time you're not eating or doing a doing a shore excursion. Wow, that's a tongue twister this late at night, apparently. But I'm like, well, all the other stuff, if I could do board games during that time, that would be awesome. So
it is probably my favorite like board game related event, just because it's like, I mean, a lot of the hassle when you go to these board game conventions too is like, oh man, we got to go out and eat and like figure out how we're going to get food. Like here, like there's a pizza place that's just always open. You can always get pizza. There's a buffet like every day. You have like nice dinners where you can order as many entrees as you want. It's like, you know what? I want 2 entrees. I'll take 3 appetizers and then I'll roll back to the gaming lounge and check out a game about eating food even more, I guess. I don't know.
You know, like I said, I didn't buy into it, but then I'm like, you know what? Because that first day where you're just cruising and you do nothing, I'm not a lay on the Lido deck kind of guy. That's just not my deal. Like, so that just sounds, you know what I did though, the last time I was on a cruise, and I think it might be the reason we did. Like, do they have the art convention or the art auctions on the cruise that you went on?
I think maybe, but everybody's too busy playing games to pay attention to it most of the time.
It was a stupid thing. They had it was an auction that they had every day in this one. And because I was bored, I went to it and I spent way too much money buying silly art things. And then next thing you know, you're like legit, like I went the next day and I ended up trading up because I'm like, okay, I don't want that one anymore. Can I get that one instead? And it got out of hand. And I think I spent as much on art as I did on the cruise.
That's crazy.
So, I mean, it's maybe if I have a good distraction, that wouldn't happen. Like board games.
Yeah, you'd definitely be distracted with all the games we have. We have like thousands of games. We have, the baker's racks. We basically have like 20 baker's racks full of games. And I mean, it's not the biggest board game collection in the world, but it's very like finely curated. Like we pay attention to what people want and what people are playing. We also try to do a lot of like upgrading stuff. Like we'll get like fancy bits and components and put them into those games, put nice inserts into the games as well. So we're trying to and we're working to try to have like a lot of the games painted also if there's miniatures in the game. Wow. So it's not only is it a library of board games, but it's like a library of nice blinged out board games, which I think is pretty cool.
All right. I think you have me convinced. I might have to try this because I'm not coming down for, I'm sorry. I love you to death, Roy. You're one of my favorite people in the business. I'm not coming down there in July. It's just, no, I like my cold weather. I'll just burst into flames when I'm walking down the street in July.
That's why the cruise is good, because it's during the winter months,
Right. So, and I don't think I would have any trouble getting Sharon to come on a cruise. I mean, that's a win-win for everybody involved. Awesome.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. My wife loves doing it as well.
Cool. Well, you know what? Let's take a quick break because I want to come back and I want to find out what you're up to. Like, because last time we talked, you were still doing Epic Game Night. You're still doing contributions. So I want to see how is your day-to-day and how are you contributing these days to the hobby and community. So we're going to be right back after this.
Pontifications with Patrick Hillier.
A man died. At his funeral, his friend approached the widow and asked if he could say a word. She said, sure. The friend said, plethora. She said, thank you. That means a lot.
great. And we're still here with the one, the only Roy Cannaday of Epic Gaming Night Dice Tower. So what's going on, Roy? Because I know when you took the job and you had your own contributions and then life gets in the way, you're still trying to raise awesome kids. I see those. Yeah. So you're still like constantly doing that. So what are you doing these days to kind of contribute and, you know, have your say in this world?
Well, I still do board game media content. I had Epic Gaming Night, which I was on before, but my co-host, having moved away from the Winston-Salem, North Carolina area, they decided that it was going to be hard for them to continue doing the podcast. So we had our final episode of Epic Gaming Night and had all sorts of different people back on the show, and that was really cool. But so that kind of ended around August. Then I started up a new podcast called Spaces Between, where I'm just a host and I interview people, and mostly I just talk about whatever. I leave it very free flowing and casual and just let the conversation go where it would lead and hopefully give people a chance to talk about their passions. I started as like an idea to have a bunch of other Dice Tower contributors on because everybody knows like Tom and Z, but they don't know some of the other contributors out there. But Tom was like, no, you got to have everybody on there. People from all sorts of board game media, people from designers, all sorts of different stuff. So I'm like, oh, that's awesome. So I've been having all sorts of different people on, talking to them about board gaming and life and their thoughts on game design and their thoughts on doing media and just painting miniatures or their passions or what they're just their thoughts about all sorts of different topics. So it's been really enjoyable doing that, more free flowing content. I also still do Favorite Game Friday on the Dice Tower, and that is coming up on like 4.5 years, something like that. So I've been doing that for quite a while. And I still do the occasional review here and there. And I also did the top 100 with the other guys from the Dice Tower. So I did my 40 games, but I also was the People's Choice back and forth with Mike DeLisio for the ones below 40. But it was a blast to be on those and share my favorite games of all time. And it's just been really cool doing all sorts of different stuff in the board game media sphere.
That sounds pretty awesome. So, I mean, this interview racket's kind of fun, isn't it? Like getting to know and trying to really kind of get to know people more than we already do. I think it's awesome. I love it. And yours is super casual. It's like, you do a very good job of just trying to put people like at ease. We're just having a chill conversation. That's all this is. And it's a lot of fun. I've enjoyed the few I've gotten to see. So awesome.
Yeah, it's fun. It's fun to, when I had my old podcast, it was very much about like I had topics and I had pre-prepared questions. And pre-prepared questions is pretty good for a lot of people, but it wouldn't let people necessarily talk about whatever they wanted to or their passions. So I was really interested in trying to start, not just because it's easier, but just to have something that just like wherever the conversation goes, that's what we're going to talk about. And it just makes things a little bit more interesting, and we can talk about what people are passionate about, maybe talk about people's background in board games, and I just basically come up with questions and just do them on the fly to keep the conversation going. But it's interesting to see. I've talked to all sorts of different people. One of my favorite that I've done so far was having Bill Everly, who's one of the creative designers behind Cosmic Encounter and Dune. It was just really cool having him on, talking about the passions that he has for gaming and like his visions of bringing people together through gaming and experiences. It's just been a lot of fun.
What has been your most unexpected moment so far? Like, where's the conversation gone, or who's it been with that's just kind of been like, that was awesome, I didn't expect it to go here?
I was talking with Ryan, the guy who designed Pipeline for one episode, and he's really big into computer programming and stuff. And we started talking about like self-learning computers and AI, which I'm actually pretty interested in. And the conversation got to a certain point where I'm just like, I'm pretty sure we lost all the normal board gamers talking about self-learning machines and computers and how they can be. I was trying to bring it into board gaming, but I feel like we went too far. And I'm like, let's go back and talk about board games. but it was pretty fun, and it's
finding that moment on Game All Night. That one where it's like the last 15 minutes, everyone but the 3 experts tuned out.
Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah, but it's so much fun to kind of sometimes just jump down that rabbit hole because you don't know where it's going to go and what you're going to end up talking about, and you could have a 15-minute conversation about Weird Al Yankovic. So I think it's kind of fun.
And you really get to see what people are super interested and passionate about if you just let the conversation flow. It makes it feel pretty natural. And it's harder to do when you have everything so scripted out, and you have to have more of these long form conversations to make it kind of appear.
Right. And it really takes time to get people comfortable too. And what better way to get them comfortable than to get them talking about themselves and the things they're passionate about. That's going to be where you have your fun time. Like whenever I started it, my interviewing background comes from running restaurants and literally hundreds of interviews for waiters, servers, busboys, whatever. And you're talking about people who are already nervous because maybe they haven't interviewed a lot yet. And it was always about get them talking about themselves. Like, what are your hobbies? What do you do for fun? What do you do? How do you contribute back to the community? Whatever it is, just to get them talking about themselves. And then eventually you can start asking the harder questions, but it takes you a little time to get there. Absolutely.
Yeah, I think it's interesting too, because I have designers and publishers on, but it's not normally about promoting their newest, hottest game. It's more about getting to know that person and maybe know what they like or the behind the scenes of some of the stuff, which I think is still a little bit of promotion within itself. Because if you become a fan of the person, then obviously you're going to be excited to support their work. And when you see the passion and all the stuff that they put behind it, it's oh my goodness, Jerry Hawthorne's really big in these storybook games. And that's why he's so passionate about it, because he wants to have families play games together and teach kids these interesting lessons in games and letting the families talk to their kids through the games themselves. It's just kind of man, that's really exciting and interesting. And when you see that sort of thing, it's yeah, I'm on board with this. Let's check that out.
Sounds awesome. So what do you see as kind of the next thing you want to do? Tom says, I have 45 minutes to an hour. We need to fill this gap in the schedule once a week. Find me something. What are you bringing them, Roy? What's going to be on the network?
Oh my goodness. I already do a lot of things because as far as my job goes, I'm normally editing videos. Basically, all of Tom's reviews go through me. I run most of the live stuff. Mike helps me run stuff here and there. But a lot of the videos I already do. So the podcast and things like that, a lot of times fill in gaps or kind of extracurricular sort of stuff almost, just because I'm that passionate about board game media. I'm okay, got off work editing reviews all day. I'm going to come back and do a podcast, interview this person, interview that person, or play this game so I can get it ready for a review. But yeah, I don't know. It really depends. I went down the 3D printing rabbit hole for a while and made a lot of content about that. And that was pretty fun. And I've done little top 5 lists here and there, but yeah, I would have to think on that to see if there's something new and creative. It's always interesting to try to think of something that people haven't done before, or something that's outside the box,
I think there's room. I think there's still a lot of unexplored little genres that, we can still kind of dig our way into. So I think that, and I'm sure you're an ideas guy. When you're not sitting there clicking mouses and toggling jog dials, you'll be fine. You'll absolutely be fine.
Yeah, and I think there's a lot of things that people have covered before, but maybe those forms of media have gone away or in the past. And I would love to talk more about game design and the processes behind that, because I've been working on playtesting and iterating a game, and I basically have signed my first game. Okay. So I would be interested to talk about that as well, the process and how those things go through and what it looks like from start to finish sort of thing. But I'm not quite at that point yet. So there's a lot of content out there I think people would be interested in, just on all sorts of aspects of board games.
Now, and let me guess. I'm gonna guess the genre of the game you designed is area control.
Maybe. Yes.
It's not a no. Know your audience.
But yeah, it's always interesting to like think of like games out there and then try to find a way to do something new or different. I mean, I can't really talk too much about what's going on because everybody's all secretive. But hopefully this summer these will be announced and I'll be able to talk about it more. But it's cool and interesting ways to try to take mechanics or take different things and make it new or make it something that people haven't seen before. Because I mean, there's a lot of repetition in board games out there, but there's definitely still a ton of space for any innovation and creativity, you know. It's always interesting to try to make a game that'll set itself apart in the marketplace, you know. So
this is something new. I didn't know you were into trying to design something. When did that kind of come to be? Like, was it due to the new all your free time now, or is it?
It's the opposite of free time right now. That's for sure. Actually, I started working on it over like 2 years ago. Oh. So I had my design basically complete before I even started working for the Dice Tower. And I went through showing it to different publishers and people being excited and getting feedback. And now I think I finally found it a home. So I'm super excited about that. The road to game design is not a short one at all. So I'm sure most designers could tell you, like, the pipelines for board games are normally 2 years out. And then there's the whole, that's when the game is done. And then there's the whole, like, trying to pitch it to publishers side of it and then get it to where it needs to be. And it's just a exciting, interesting thing that a lot of publishers have to, or a lot of designers have to go through. That I think not as many people behind the scenes or people that play the games realize, you know?
Right. I don't think I had a complete appreciation for that until I was talking to, I believe it was TC Petty, because, you know, we're waiting on a few games that we've been talking about for 2-3 years now. But he's like, it's signed, it's done. It's just, it takes that long to kind of get all the assets together to, you know, continue on, you know, fine tuning the game and getting things running and humming. And then, oh, wait, well, we don't want to release it this year because we already are full up. So we're going to push it to next year. It's really, there is a lot of hoops to jump through, more or less, I think, along this point. But that's awesome. I'm glad to hear that.
It's like, even as a designer, after everything's completely finished, it's like, okay, now the publisher has the game. Now they have to figure out how do they manufacture it. And they got to figure out, oh, do we need molds for this? And how do we figure this out? And do we need to develop this a little bit? And how do we do the graphic design? How do we do all the illustrations? All right, how do we gear it for marketing? How do we have enough copies to do all the marketing we need to do? There's so much of stuff that goes into play behind the scenes for board games that I think it would be really cool to have like a series just showing kind of like a lot of the behind the scenes, or at least talking about the different steps along the way.
That'd be awesome. And then maybe have like a different designer on each week to talk about a different step in the process. Because I'm sure that there are designers who love to kind of get it to this point and then just hand it off and then start on the next thing. Like, I'm sure that Knizia has to do that, right? Like, he just has to hand off a game at some point and just like, okay, this is done, develop it. This is done, develop it. And like, that's just gotta be crazy.
And there's so many games. It's like, oh yeah. I mean, I'm sure there's a lot of designers out there that are full-time designers that are just like, oh, you have no idea. I have a whole bunch of games that are in the pipeline. Just wait. I mean, like last year, Wolfgang Warsch, like, he had so many games hit all at the same time. Right. It's because a whole bunch of these games have been in development and just and hung up on things. And then when they all drop, it's like, oh, where's this guy? Where'd he come from? Well, no. He's probably been working on this stuff behind the scenes for forever, you know?
Right. So I think that there's a lot of like the music industry can kind of take from this, right? Because like the first album that drops has a lot of hits on it, right? Because it's been the whole time they've been, you know, as a band and touring and writing original stuff. Like, there's so much heart and soul in that freshman album that, you know, it's just amazing. And then you turn around and they're like, okay, we're ready for 3 more. And then now it kind of, now you have to take like all this experience that may have been many, 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 many years, and you're trying to compress it. So if you don't have a big, deep catalog, you're gonna have those gaps in your publishing history too, because you don't, I also have a feeling as soon as people realized how hot Wolfgang was, I'm sure his stuff got sped up in the queue, because people are like, strike while this designer's hot, and then get them out while we can, because, I mean, how much work do you need to do on like some of the rolling rights and things? There's not a ton, but if you can get them out and get them out, it's a whole different business, I'm sure. So what do you think has been like the biggest learning moment since you kind of moved down to be with the Dice Tower? Like, what is, like, I'm sure you had expectations, and then you also had like, well, this is, the position, the role you're going to have. Where was kind of the biggest moment along that line, or the biggest thing you had to adjust to?
It's definitely been very interesting. It's kind of crazy because you see all of the content, you see the stuff that comes out, but I don't think people realize like how much work goes on behind the scenes. Like there is a massive amount. I mean, me and Tom did a video that was like the anatomy of a board game review, and it showed like from the beginning of him getting the game on his doorstep to like the video going up on YouTube. And I mean, it's like play the game or get the game, unbox the game, play the game. Like then after it's been played enough times, then review the game and shoot all the videos. And then after the videos are shot, then we got to edit all the videos. And then after the videos are edited, you got to do thumbnails, all different stuff. It's like, that's also 12 times a week, because we normally put out about 12 reviews. That's just from Tom. So it's super interesting. And at the same time, we do all these live things as well. It's just always ever flowing, ever changing, like, okay, editing this thing, getting up. Okay, now we're going to do the top 10 list, or let's make a PowerPoint for that, make intros and outros. Okay, let's do it all live. And I mean, it's just, it's a full-time job, but it's definitely fun as we go along, because we get to see new games, exciting games. And the guys that I work with, they're all like hardworking. Like no one there is like slacking off at all, because everything has to get done. But it's fun. And then like, it's like, okay, well, there's going to be a convention next week. We got to get all this stuff ready for Gen Con. Okay, well, let's get all this stuff. We got to do 2 weeks of reviews this week, So it's definitely been interesting to see how much goes on and how much work there is behind the scenes that I think people don't realize when they're just like, oh, cool, there's this new video of this hot review, I'll click that, but it's cool. We definitely try to have a giant breadth of a catalog. So even though basically everybody's reviewing the super hot games, there's a lot of games that fall through the cracks, and the consumers want to know about those as well. So it's been cool to be able to work on a lot of game content.
Absolutely. And I gotta wrap this up. What has been your favorite moment so far? What has been like the moment on that kind of really kind of said like, man, I'm super glad we made this move. This was worth it.
Honestly, it's mostly just the recognition when you go to cons or conventions. I mean, a lot of times we'll be in the studio working hard, doing stuff on camera, but then you don't really realize who all's watching or how many people recognize it. And then you go to a convention or something and you're there and there's people coming up to you saying, oh, I really noticed the difference when you started working here, and notice the changes that have been made, and notice how awesome this thing is or that thing is. And, oh man, I really liked how you did that thing there or this thing. And it's just awesome when you actually get to interact with the people that consume the media. I mean, I don't like to call anybody fans. I'm like, these are just friends that I don't know yet. It's cool because they share lots of inside jokes with you, and they know lots of different things about you and your tastes and things you like and don't like in gaming. And it's just fun to get to meet all those people in person. And I mean, that's why we go to these conventions, to try to interact and reach out. I mean, it's probably less about marketing and getting more fans than it is about just interacting with the people that already are fans. It's just a lot of fun.
Absolutely. Awesome. So is there anything, well, obviously you have a game to talk about in the near future, but what else is maybe new and exciting on the horizon?
Definitely check out with the Dice Tower. We're going to start doing top 10s with guests a lot more. We're going to have a lot of big names coming in, and Rodney Smith is actually going to be on the Dice Tower this week. I'm not quite sure when this airs, but Rodney Smith is going to have a few top 10s, which is going to be pretty cool. We're going to be flying different people in, so that should be fun. Me and Mike are also going to be joining on random top 10s here and there, so that should be super fun as well. But more of just the same. Make sure to check out the spaces between that I've been working on, and Favorite Game Friday stuff too.
Awesome. Well, it's been awesome to kind of revisit and recap and see where things have been for you. This has been a blast. So thanks so much for coming back on.
Thanks so much, man. I like the things you guys doing, and it's definitely awesome to see how much things have changed over the last couple years.
Hopefully the important stuff has stayed the same, but all the fun stuff just keeps getting better. That's what I keep hoping for.
I'm sad that I didn't get mailed a pony hand thing and have to be so confused about what in the world that was.
That finger corn was amazing. So, that was, the Amazon in the box thing was very hard to pull off, and hence why I never made a return. But you were the only one we did that with, and that was totally fun. So.
It was definitely random because weren't we supposed to be like lying about what we got? It was just so weird.
Yeah. Well, you could lie or you could tell the truth, and it was up to the other person to say whether it was real or not. That was the gimmick. So, but that was hysterical. You told the truth, and I'm like, there's no way he has that. No way. No way. But that was amazing, as always. So, Roy, where can people find you if they want to, hunt you down and stalk you on the interwebs?
Well, obviously, if you check out the YouTube channel, The Dice Tower, hopefully you guys know about it, but we do top 10s and reviews and all that stuff. But if you want to talk to me personally, it's my Twitter is at Epic Gaming Night, and then also my Instagram's at Epic Gaming Night as well. So hit me up there. But yeah, just make sure to watch more of Chris's stuff, because Chris's stuff is awesome.
Well, there you go. Awesome. Well, I appreciate that. And if you want to get in on the Favorite Game Friday, that's always happening on the Instagrams, because that's where you put it up, right? Awesome.
Well, I actually put it up on the Dice Tower now, but I have changed something interesting about it since we last talked. I now have it open to the public, so anybody who wants to join in, they can just drop a video into the Google Drive that I have set up, and so we get all sorts of variety of voices talking about their favorite games in the topic each week.
That's awesome. So definitely worth checking out. So thanks again so much for being on. In 3 years' time, we'll do this again. It'll be a little party.
and probably by then things will have changed just as much.
I hope so, and always for the better. So thanks so much. Thank you, Dan, for pouring one of my favorite beers. I appreciate that. And thanks, Roy, for showing up. And thank you at home for watching. We'll see you next time.
Guest. If you enjoy our content, please consider supporting us on Patreon. Be sure to follow us on all forms of social media. Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook are the best ways possible. Simply find us by searching for Game All Night Show. And of course, check out our website at gameallnightshow.com. This Week and Each Week is made possible through the generous support of donors like these. Be sure to subscribe below and check out our latest videos. Oh, that's right. I have to wear pants now.